thank you for taking the interview. My name is Wen Yu from Disability Rights Vermont. I want to know that if do you mind to sharing your story online this interview?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Carrie Darling. I'm the director of Deaf Vermonters Advocacy Services, and I'm also president of the Vermont Association of the Deaf.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
What does it mean to you to live with disability?
Well, for myself as a deaf person in Vermont, sometimes there are some struggles. I have to admit, there's not enough interpreters to provide communication access. There's also not enough interpreters that are qualified in specific fields such as the legal realm or to interpret in the court system. So there are times that it takes much longer for the court proceedings to happen for deaf people because of the lack of interpreters. And I see that a lot with the clients that I work with, struggling to go through the court system in a timely fashion. The deaf community is very small in Vermont, which pros and cons. There's a lot of action that needs to take place. We try to keep each other informed, and when we do get together, it's wonderful because we are that tight-knit community, but it doesn't happen as often as we'd like. Other than that, I would say a lot of the laws do not necessarily tailor to deaf needs, so I feel like there's more action that needs to be taken to make sure that deaf rights are met in terms of accommodations or services, etc.
Can you be specific? What kind of action do you think should be made?
Sure. Well, I want to make sure that hearing aids are actually covered by insurance companies, because it's not currently. Really, it's the same concept as, let's say, people who have a prosthetic or any other medical durable piece of equipment. Hearing aids should be part of that, but right now it's not. It's considered separate as a cosmetic auxiliary aid, but really it's a medical necessity to help us throughout our life to be independent. Also, we don't have a lot of services that really understand deaf people in Vermont. We used to have a school for the deaf. Unfortunately, that closed. We had a nonprofit organization that served deaf people that also closed. So we don't have that one-stop shopping center like we used to have for resources for any deaf or hard of hearing person in the state. So we're lacking that. We need to set that up again. And also maybe offering more American Sign Language classes or information in general about the deaf community, about deaf culture, to help our state really understand us. And also think about different equipment needs for deaf and hard of hearing individuals. So we are trying to fight for a position under the Agency of Human Services who is deaf or hard of hearing themselves, who can really be that resource center for the people in Vermont.
Thank you. Also, what are public policies that affect your life as a person with disability?
Well, if there are not enough accommodations for deaf individuals in the community like myself, that's going to have a huge impact on our life about how we're actually obtaining services and understanding the communication. Are we able to get our foot in the door to access these services without public policy that really supports us? Like right now, we can't go in to watch movies like you all can because there's no open captioning. So we have different ways that the public law does impact our life, and I feel like public policy needs to change to be more effective for us to gain access.
I did hear something about the open captions. If you don't mind, can you explain the details to the public?
Sure. So public policy for open captioning is up for bid. It means that movie theaters, if they have more than 30 films shown in a week, they want to have at least 2 of those showings open caption for any audience member. Open caption means that the caption is there for everyone to see on screen. Rather, closed captioning, which people see on their television, they can turn on or off, or in a theater they might have glasses that provide that, but open caption means that it's there on screen for everybody in the theater to see. And honestly, that would be a huge benefit for these people in Vermont, not just deaf and hard of hearing, but senior citizens, older generations. I mean, a lot of people want to rely upon visual aids to see what's happening in the movie. People are losing their hearing, and I think there's over 76,000 hard of hearing people in Vermont. So open captioning would benefit everybody, not just us, but I think people don't realize that yet.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. Sorry,
No
one
problem.
more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you think Vermont government doing a good job helping people with hearing disability?
Well, honestly, I haven't seen anything effective yet that's passed in the budget for what we want for this position, like we mentioned last year, to have that commission position. But we need to expand services in the government for sure, to make sure that we can get the accommodations we need and make sure that we have the funding set aside for that. I haven't seen the government fully support this endeavor yet, but I think it's possible. I think we can change their minds.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the interview, and I hope you don't mind we sharing your story online.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Susan Yuan, and I'm the mother of a man who is almost 45 years old, who has a disability. And I wanted to tell about the first time we ever got a bill passed. And it was the easiest bill we've ever gotten passed. Some of us had been working with developmental services on reorganizing the system. This was way back before the new Developmental Disabilities Act went through in 1994. And we were getting discouraged because we couldn't. The agencies were so powerful, the designated agencies, and we didn't feel that the voices of the people served were being heard. And so when they decided to keep the designated agency system the way it was, we were even more discouraged because we felt we needed a voice for the people being served. So the night before the platform was due for VCDR, my friend Betty Malizia and I sat on her bed up in her bedroom and wrote a 2-line bill that became known as the governance bill. And basically we said, all right, what do we want? We said, we want the boards of directors of all the agencies that serve people with disabilities and mental health to have a majority of the people served or their family members on the board. Because usually if there were anybody on the board, it was maybe 1 or 2 token people. And then we also said that the people with disabilities would self-identify themselves as people with disabilities or family members. And that was all it was. It was 2 lines. And we took it to VCDR and it got on the platform. And we didn't really have to get a lot of allies because there was kind of a groundswell. There were so many people who had been frustrated because their voices hadn't been heard, that they came from everywhere. And the agencies fought it very, very hard. But the more the agencies fought it, the more the people served fought back. And with almost no changes at all, we passed it. And it became the law of Vermont that all the designated agencies had to have a majority of the people served or their family members. And they were so upset. They said, we're never going to find these people. But they did. They just were different people than had been on the boards before. Because before it was usually, lawyers and doctors and people with money. And this time it was the people served. Well, after we did that, we were feeling very good. And we had a very good United States Senator, Senator Jeffords, who was very strong on disability issues. And the Federal Developmental Disabilities Act was coming up for reauthorization. So we went to him and we said, look what we did in Vermont. We want to do the same thing at the federal level. And he looked at it and he said, okay, and had us work with his staff to write very, very simple things in. For instance, the Developmental Disabilities Council has to have a majority of the people served are their families. The university centers have to have an advisory committee that has to have a majority. P&A, the Protection and Advocacy, Disability Rights, has to have people, a majority on their advisory committees. And we passed it through at the federal level. And it's now the law of the country. And it all started on Betty's bed.
That's amazing.
And it's, you know, it's, most bills are a lot harder. But this was something that the time was right. And we didn't know the time was right. We didn't follow any of the rules. We just were upset that we weren't getting enough voice. So we got it. And I think when there's something that people are upset about, you can do this quite easily.
That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing this story.